Welcome into Mic'd Up on the Wednesday final edition of the show for this week, as we are going to be on for Thanksgiving the next couple days. Fulton Caster here with you for Mic'd Up today. We got a lot to get to here on Wednesday's edition of the show, in particular because we don't have any shows the next 2 days. We're going to give you our Chiefs keys to the game for the matchup coming up on Sunday for the Chiefs and the Rams, as now it looks like more and more Bryce Perkins will likely get the start. And that isn't great for the Rams and could make this an even bigger blowout than it potentially could be. Plus some injury updates from head coach Andy Reid. We'll hear from head coach Andy Reid and quarterback Patrick Mahomes coming up in the show today. We hear from Andy Reid in the 1 o'clock hour, Mahomes in the 2 o'clock hour. We'll get to what is arguably my favorite news of the day. Lance Leipold is in Kansas for the long haul, folks. Announced yesterday by Pete Thamel that he has signed a massive contract extension to stay with the Kansas Jayhawks with significant investment into the program. We'll get to that coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. But everyone loves the list. We've done desserts and we've done sides. So now we're going to get to the main course. I know what you're thinking. Well, Fulton, there's like 2 things people eat for main course at Thanksgiving: turkey and ham. I get that. I want specifics, though. I want specifically, what are you going with? What style? There's styles to do with all these things. There's different pieces to add to it. Plus, people can get creative with what you would want. For your centerpiece for your Thanksgiving meal, what are you thinking of? That's what our list will be today. Paul Myerberg will join us at the bottom of this hour to discuss some Big 12 football going on, particularly the Sunflower Showdown between KU and K-State, but also some of the other Big 12 football action coming up later on this weekend. And then Kellis Robinette will join us at the top of the 2 o'clock hour to discuss K-State's perspective on the Sunflower Showdown. But to kick today's show off, we're going to go through our Chiefs keys to the game, and for at least a little bit of time, Jake LeBon will join us for our Chiefs keys to the game to get his thoughts in here as well. Jake, I'm going to start with myself here. My number one key, I think, is a pretty simple one to dealing with the Rams.
You can't take mine because I think it's mine.
Okay, my first key would be to pressure. You got to pressure Perkins or Cookus, whoever's at quarterback.
Oh, my first 2 keys are the same 2 keys. I only have, there's 1 key in this game. There's only 1 key
Jake,
in this game.
What is your only key to this game then?
Protect Patrick Mahomes. Because
Fair enough.
if big, Glenn Perkins, the pitcher for the Twins, if I don't care who it is, if it's a Perkins waitress, doesn't matter. If he's starting at quarterback, the only thing that the Chiefs need to do is protect 15. That's it. There are no other keys in this one. There is just 1 key.
It's protect 15.
If Perkins is starting, and it's not Matthew Stafford, which it looks like it's going to be Perkins.
It will most likely be Perkins, with also the news that Case Cookus has been signed to the Rams practice squad today. USFL legend Case Cookus.
Case gonna get his cook kicked. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. They're a 14-point favorite right now, Fulton.
They are. No, I agree.
Or a 14-point. Chiefs are a 14-point favorite.
Chiefs are a 14-point favorite, 14.5. It'll probably climb even higher. Let's be honest about it.
This is not like the Charger game.
No, it's not.
This is simple. Block Aaron Donald with a couple guys. Don't let a blitzer get to Mahomes. If you do that, the Chiefs win this one easily.
I think that's fair. I still think there's a level to this defensive to the defense here. If it is Bryce Perkins, which is likely going to be Bryce Perkins for his first NFL start, the undrafted free agent out of Virginia, I think letting him sit back in the pocket all day would be something that could give him confidence. So still disrupt him is why that's there for me. And then my second key is very much along the line of yours. Just don't give LA any chances. This game is a 14.5-point spread for a reason. This entire Rams team is a gigantic train wreck. Their offensive line sucks. They don't have Cooper Kupp. They just released Darrell Henderson because they can't pick a running back. Their best receiver right now is Allen Robinson, who's been slightly better, but not great. Van Jefferson and Ben Skoranek.
They went from the penthouse to the proverbial outhouse very quickly.
I think saying they're in the outhouse is actually being too kind to them.
Well, where else are they?
The street, the gutter. I don't know.
Well, would you rather be it now? The gutter, that would not, because the outhouse stinks.
It does. No,
It's
the
not- you
outhouse
don't wanna-
does stink.
It's like a porta john.
I know, but you're still
You're trying to tell me there's someplace worse than a porta john?
what I am telling you is with the porta john, they still have shelter. They still have got a roof over their head.
Do you know what goes on in a porta john?
I do. I've used the porta john.
It stinks. It might be an actual negative that it's enclosed. You know, it would probably be better if it was just a hole in the ground.
You're going, more vintage outhouse.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
it would be better if it was a vintage outhouse than a porta john. No, there's nothing worse than getting stuck in an outhouse.
Have you been stuck in an outhouse, Jake?
No.
Okay, good.
No, but I've been in it. Let's put it this way.
I've been in them, though.
I've never stayed in a porta john longer than I needed to.
I agree with that. No, and that's my overall point when it comes to this game between the Rams and the Chiefs. Don't throw stupid interceptions. Don't cough up the football on fumbles. Don't drop passes. Don't give LA any lifelines, because that is how you let a bad team win. Like, that is the only way bad teams ever seem to win these types of games, is it's the better team just hands them constant opportunities. But no, I think the big thing is just, if you keep Mahomes upright, you block big 99, which that is important. Aaron Donald still exists. And Aaron Donald is still as good as he ever has been. You have to be able to block Aaron Donald. Jalen Ramsey will be on somebody, so just throw away from Jalen Ramsey. Avoid Bobby Wagner in the middle of the field. You should be able to still have an easier day on this one, but just don't sit here and give the Rams all these chances by doing something silly. We do have a comment here on our YouTube page, which I'd like to remind you, we are live streaming the show, as we will do forever and in perpetuity, at youtube.com. Just search up Sports on 580. You'll find our YouTube page. Give us a subscribe if you haven't done that yet. And then also you can sit here and watch the live stream of the video, or you can join us on the Big O Tires text line 785-272-9429. But our man Vance asked, I think, a good question here, Jake. How quick will the hook come out for Mahomes and Kelce if the Chiefs get a sizable lead? Does Reed pull his starters early if they get a big lead early? Because he's pulled them before. It's only ever with 5 minutes left.
I'll say they won't. They're going to play the full three quarters. And then if they're up 34-7 in the fourth quarter, they're going to play the whole entire first three quarters.
No, I agree with you there. Reed has never been a coach to pull anyone. This isn't college. This isn't where, Bryce Petty is up 55-7 on KU at the half, and coming out of halftime his shoulder pads are off. That also game was very demoralizing when that game was played, and the starting quarter for Baylor didn't even have to wear shoulder pads for the second half because they were up by so many points. That sucked so much. But no, they'll play three quarters. They might get pulled in the fourth if the lead is big enough for the Chiefs. We'll see. I also don't know if Andy Reid's really going to, step on the throat, so to speak, of the Rams if he has too many chances, especially in the third quarter. He might call off the dogs earlier than I probably would like to, because that's how Andy Reid is, but who knows? We still have to pick a big chief for this game, though, Jake.
Mm-hmm.
Who would be your big chief in this contest?
I'm going to go with Chris Jones, because the Rams O-line stinks.
It's bad.
Yeah, it stinks.
It's horrendous.
It's bad.
And they went from having a decent offensive line last year, and then the Rams put all their chips to the center of the table to win a Super Bowl. And I will give them credit. They won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it's just now has fully collapsed on them and imploded and is not going well for even 5 seconds.
No, it's bad, but you won a Super Bowl.
My big chief is similar along the lines of you, with somebody on the defensive line trying to take advantage. Frank Clark, have yourself a good day, my friend.
I thought you were going to go with Furious George.
I was tempted to go with Furious George. We're going to go with Frank Clark. Furious George can get a big chief honorable mention. We've never done that, but sure, we can kind of do that, because why not? We make the rules. But I think Frank should have a good day. I think the entire defensive line should have a good day. I think Mike Dana should have a good day as well. But it should be pretty easy for the Chiefs to try and get pressure in this one. Particularly, they have 10 sacks in their last two games. They're up to 4th in sacks in the NFL. Which, when I was talking to Matt Derrick yesterday, Matt said he wasn't surprised when I asked him and told him that stat, because he knew it at that point. But he had someone tell him that before, and he was like, that has to be a typo. With the way we think about the Chiefs pass rush, they can't be up to 4th in the league in sacks, but they are. They're 4th in the league in sacks, 4th in the league in pressures. It seems like the pass rush is, I don't know if I want to say fixed, but
it's viable.
I think that's the right word to use.
That's
it's
what
viable.
you need. That's what you need.
It's incredibly viable. We'll get to the injury news for the Chiefs more coming up here later on in the show and get deeper. The biggest injury news coming out of the day, though, Clyde Edwards-Helaire with a high ankle sprain is headed to injured reserve. He will be out the next 4 contests. So your backfield will now be Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, and then we're finally going to probably get a Ronald Jones sighting.
Oh, Andy Reid, when he spoke, I mean, he said maybe. No, he's going to play. You're going to have 3 running backs. You can't go with 2 running backs. You just can't. So, no, I think Rojo will play. Well, he'll be active at least. So, hey, you get to suit up. How about that, Ronald Jones?
You're going to be on the sideline, get to wear your fancy number 2.
You get to suit up. So, no, yeah, he'll play. It's a bummer for Clyde. He just hasn't ever been able to stay healthy. He just hasn't. I mean, either hamstring injuries or ankle injuries. He had that, virus thing, last year as well. So Isaiah Pacheco had already taken a spot, but I mean, at least Andy Reid and the coaching staff thought Clyde was better than Ronald Jones. So that is a bummer, but yeah, Ronald Jones, I don't know how many carries he's going to get. Let's put it that way. But Pacheco better get 15. That's all I know.
The Rams are not great at many things. I don't know how great the Rams run defense is.
They're good. They're good.
So they can stop the run.
They are good at the run.
You have Aaron Donald. You should be able to stop the run if you have Aaron Donald. Yeah. That feels like one of the simplest things ever is just you have Aaron Donald and you should be able to stop the run in those ones. They've allowed the 4th. Here's fun with numbers here. The Rams have allowed the 4th fewest rushing yards in the NFL. Who do you think's allowed the 5th fewest?
The Giants.
Incorrect. They are 23rd in the NFL in rush defense.
Jets.
Close. They're 8th.
I don't know.
The Kansas City Chiefs. They've allowed the 5th fewest rushing yards in the NFL this year.
It helps win one game that a team didn't run it at all.
Yeah, it helps. They've given up 1,006 rushing yards on the year, and 6 of those came against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, that helps.
That very much helps when one team only rushes for 6 yards and completely quits on trying to run the football. It's beneficial. It really is. All right, Jake, what's your prediction?
Chiefs win. They win easy. I don't know if you can cover 14.
I mean, you can.
That's a lot of points.
It's a lot, but I mean, you can. It is possible. You win by more than 14 points.
I know it's possible. I don't like big spreads like that.
No, these are terrifying to me. If
anything, it says you always if it's a double-digit point spread, you go with the points.
Yeah, usually do.
But I think the Chiefs probably win this game, 30-17 or something like that. I mean, it could be 30-10, 20-point game. Touchdown with 5 minutes to go.
A completely meaningless touchdown that no one's even trying to stop. No, I will not be betting on the spread of this game at any level because
it's 14.5. That hook going to get
somebody. That hook is going to get somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like double-digit spreads. I don't like spreads between 10 and 17 points. That is ultimate backdoor territory, even in college football. Like, I don't like betting on football spreads that are in that range. That just feels like it's guaranteed an area that's going to cause a problem. So, for me, I would say it's more like 30. I think around 31-17 might be where it is. I think the Chiefs get up big early in the first half, and then Andy Reid spends the second half running the football. I don't think he's going to want to try and just dunk on Sean McVay and company the entire game. He'll find a way to call off the dogs and find a way to make it a little bit simpler and close to the game, probably as quickly as possible to limit injuries. We'll take our first timeout of the show. Coming up next, K-State got another big win of the Cayman Islands Classic. We'll take a quick look at that. And then KU is taking on NC State in the battle for Atlantis. We have Thanksgiving hoops that we'll take a look at coming up next. Welcome back into Mic'd Up with Jake and Fulton. It's Thanksgiving Hoops Time Feast Week, as it has been called before. One of my favorite times of the year. K-State is down in the Cayman Islands, and the Cayman Islands Classic, which you can only watch if you have Flow Hoops, which apparently costs you about $20 million to get.
It is terrible.
Jake, are you a Flow Hoops subscriber?
Absolutely not.
I don't blame you for even a second. Yeah, it's apparently like $30, and there's no free trial option, nothing. So just, if you wanted to watch K-State play in like 3 games down in the Cayman Islands, you needed to fork over $30. That's just awful. But K-State gets the win in overtime last night, 96-87.
Greatest story in college basketball this year is Keontae Johnson, and there's not a second close.
100%. It is Keontae Johnson and about just like 80,000 mile track. Yeah. And then maybe you could find me someone else.
That dude almost died on the court, and now he's playing 40 minutes and dropping 30.
Yeah, Keontae Johnson last night, for those of you that don't have Flow Hoops, or we're not listening right here on 580 WIBW, Keontae had 28 points and 9 rebounds last night in 40 minutes. Made 2 3-pointers, was 10 of 11 from the free throw line. And that was the second best performance of the night for me. Marquise Noel is a stud.
He's playing well.
I don't know what Jerome Tang has done to access like this controlled energy in him.
Drinking Tang.
He's just
old
deep,
school Tang,
just
man.
Deep in the Tang there.
It's not orange Gatorade, it's orange Tang.
29 points and 11 assists in 41 minutes for Marquise Noel. They were the entire offense for Kansas State. They were the only 2 in double digits on the night. They found the way to get the win. That was the worst defensive performance we've seen in the Jerome Tang era. They allowed NC State to shoot 51%. Did you think...
Nevada. NC State's playing KU.
You're right. Nevada. Get the right schools out here. Both Wolfpacks, though.
Yes.
Both Wolfpacks.
Yes.
Did you think, and I know overtime messes with this a lot, did you think a K-State team was going to reach 96 points this year? Did you think K-State would ever even touch the 90s?
I thought maybe they could, because their non-conference schedule is not difficult. Now, the win against Nevada's an okay team.
Yeah,
I would.
They were 5-0 entering the matchup.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider Nevada, a juggernaut, but Nevada's an okay team. LSU is an okay team.
Yeah.
LSU, their Ken Palm ranking is 40th. Nevada, I looked up, they're 93, so they're not terrible. For those of you wondering, K-State is...
Now, where is K-State in the Palm?
K-State is... I think they're like 50th. 55th.
That's not bad.
So this game against LSU will be a great test for the Wildcats. Their schedule has not been great, and it won't get any better, but they're so athletic, and if you go up against someone who's not very athletic, and Nevada does not play a whole lot of defense, I can tell you that. Their defense is in the hundreds. So
yeah, not a great defensive team over there.
Did I think they would be this good offensively? No, I didn't think Keontae Johnson would be this good this early, and they've got just a lot of good role players involved. But this is exactly what K-State is. Like, I'm not surprised that they're undefeated. I'm not.
Yeah.
Now, if they beat LSU, that would be a really nice win.
Then we start entering the I'm kind of surprised they're here territory, given what has them done. Because remember, this is a team that had 2 guys come back from last year. Everyone else is brand new. So K-State takes on LSU in the championship game of the Cayman Islands Classic tonight at 6:30 on Flow Hoops. If you want to watch it,
They
Good luck.
don't even have a line on that game right now.
That's surprising. But if you want to listen to that game, we'll have pregame coverage starting right here on 580 WIBW.
Oh, I take that back. K-State 2-point dog.
Give me the Cats +2. I'm drinking the Tang. I'm deep. I'm deep, just all up in the orange Tang. Apparently,
Yeah, brush your teeth after that.
apparently, I do need to. KU is taking on NC State in the Battle for Atlantis quarterfinals. Right now, KU up 55-49. They're number 3 in the country. There's one important thing out of this game right now, and it's Grady Dick is on fire. He has 20 points. He had 18 in the first half on 6 3-pointers.
They've kind of slowed him down here.
They have. Grady Dick in the second half is 0 for 2 from the floor. He's missed his 1 3-point attempt. Did make a pair of free throws. KU finally is a second player in double figures, and big shock, it's Jalen Wilson, who's not scoring it well. That he's 3 of 12 from the floor. He's got 12 points thanks to 5 free throws, but does have the rebound. So I hope you took a Jalen Wilson over on rebounds. But KU, that they match against NC State, they'll try and win and advance through the middle of this week here. Very unsurprising that KU's winning right now, but man, Grady Dick. Jake said at some point he dropped 30 because he would put up a billion threes on somebody. It could be right here against NC State. We'll take another timeout. When we come back, Paul Myerberg will join us for the Big 12 Breakdown, brought to you by the 23rd Street Brewery. It is time for the Big 12 Breakdown, brought to you by our friends at the 23rd Street Brewery. You can find them in Lawrence, Kansas, if you happen to not be at Bill Snyder Family Stadium, coming up on Saturday night for primetime Sunflower Showdown between KU and K-State on Big Fox. Head over to our friends at the 23rd Street Brewery. Have a good time. Great food, great drinks. Gangly plastered all over every screen they have, including their new big, gigantic projector screen they have over there at the 23rd Street Brewery at Clinton Parkway in Lawrence. So go and check them out. But we bring on the best expert in college football in the Big 12 that there is. There is no other. We bring in Paul Myerberg. And Paul, first things first for you, my man. If I had told you when this season began that final regular season week of the Big 12 season, the biggest game, the one that's in prime time on Fox, was KU K-State, would you have believed me, or would you have thought I was insane?
I would have thought you were insane if you had told me that KU would have been 6-5. But I will say that if Kansas State was playing a key game, like this would matter for Kansas State, I wouldn't be too surprised. But let's take it one step further. If we're sitting here today, November 23rd, and you say that Oklahoma and KU have the same record, that Kansas State's going to make the New Year's Six Bowl, that TCU is 11-0, obviously that's insane. But look, take a step back. We have not talked about this enough. This is such a good league that it has such a good year, despite the fact that OU and Texas have been mediocre. I think this is a year to celebrate for the Big 12. Just having a Sunflower game means so much. It's just another example of how much this league has stepped forward and become more of a national player. So great year for the Big 12, and it's fitting that the last weekend really, really, really matters for a bunch of teams.
It really does. And when it comes to the Sunflower Showdown specifically here, Paul, I've been trying to get some different perspectives on this, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well. How much does it impact both of these programs from so many perspectives, from just fan bases, from recruiting, from engagement and everything, that for the first time in easily over a decade, if not even longer to 2 decades, the Sunflower Showdown finally matters again? Because we haven't had a Sunflower Showdown that matters in almost 15 plus years.
Yeah, it is incredible. And look, I think there's another statement to be made about these two programs. We want to talk about what they're doing in the moment. And obviously, there's a lot to celebrate for KU and a whole lot to celebrate for Kansas State as well, with a chance to go to a big-time bowl. More broadly than that, guys, this is a year with a Nebraska opening where either one of these coaches could have taken that job, could have been offered, could have accepted that job. And the fact that we're looking right now that neither one of them are going to go, I know that might be because Nebraska has other options, but it does speak to me about the state of both of these programs, the state of football in Kansas, and the idea that these two coaches are in a comfort zone with this firm belief that not only are we good this year, but we can build on this, get better and better and better. And that's definitely true for KU. We know that. So yes, absolutely. This is the best year for Kansas State, the state of Kansas football in a tremendous amount of time. And to me, these are two programs that can build on this year and be better in 2023, 24, and going forward.
Speaking of the Nebraska opening and all those different things and those rumors that were circulating for KU and even Kansas State, it's reported yesterday Lance Leipold has signed a contract extension with Kansas that will keep him through 2029, includes a raise, includes more investments in infrastructure and NIL and all these different things. How big is it for KU that through all the rumors, the speculation, all of this of, man, Leipold might go, Nebraska might take him, Wisconsin might take him, how big is it to Kansas that it looks like they've got their man locked up for the foreseeable future to keep building this comeback?
Yeah, it's so big. I mean, it's not just a symbol of it, just the idea that they're able to keep this guy and make sure that they don't lose this momentum. To invest in your coach, invest in your program, invest in your NIL packages, invest in all of that just signals that this is not going to be a flash in the pan. Or better yet, it's not going to be a flash in the pan because KU doesn't decide to build on it. In other words, they're not going to be happy with 6-5 or 6-6. They want to do more and do better. For a fan, for a player, for a recruit, you look for signs of investment, not just with dollars and cents, but investment with your heart and soul of a football program as an athletic department. And you could have questioned it a lot for KU over the years with lazy hires, stupid hires, misguided hires. They didn't just make a good hire. They're now surrounding him with what he needs from a financial and resources perspective to be even better. So this is a day to celebrate. I understand that Kansas is going to lose on Saturday night. I mean, something's got to go terribly wrong for them to win. Nonetheless, this is a moment to celebrate. It's a week to celebrate. Regardless of what happens on Saturday, it's a fantastic week for KU and for the program.
Let's go to the on-the-field product for both of these teams here, Paul. We'll start with Kansas just because looking back at this game against Texas, it'll probably be pretty quick to go through. When you and I talked last week, it was KU, find a way to not let Bijan Robinson touch the football a lot. Well, they didn't do that, and Bijan Robinson looked like Prime Barry Sanders mixed with a little bit of Reggie Bush and then every other great running back you could ever think of against KU. Was that just a simple case of Kansas started getting to run over by Texas and Texas never let off the gas?
Yeah, they're like the if like you try to bench press too much, you start to know really fast that you're in serious trouble. And like the bar's on your chest, and you're like, well, this is not good. That's KU against Texas. The bar's on their chest, and they've got no help. And the best thing they could do is just sit down and take it. When you look at Kansas State, look, this game is a rivalry. You do want to throw out the records or your perspective on each individual team to a degree. I look at this game as Kansas can't win this game as much as Kansas State could decide to lose it. We both have seen this team. We've all seen both of these teams for months. If Kansas State plays this game, this is a 30-point win. That's just the truth of it. I'd be much more surprised by KU 3-point win than I would by Kansas State 3-touchdown win. That's what I think of these two teams going into the final Saturday of November.
For KU, they got star quarterback Jalen Daniels back against Texas. What did you make of Jalen Daniels' first start in well over a month and how he looked? And how would you evaluate just him coming back off that game? And what do you think he needs to do to try and maybe get back more in a groove against Kansas State coming up on Saturday?
All things considered, guys, I mean, it had been more than a month. Anytime you have an injury as a quarterback or as anyone who is a skilled player who has to make moves and make cuts and do things with the football, it's always a little bit of a mental hurdle. I thought all things considered, was he terrific? No, not at all. But he was better than I thought he would be, to be quite honest, especially in a situation where things got out of control early and Texas was able to really pin their ears back and attack. I thought it was a game that's good to build on. I think to be better against Kansas State, a little bit more in control, and really kind of use these 15 packages coming up to the bowl game to really get back into his regular routine and rhythm heading into the offseason. So all things considered, it was fine. Was it great? No. But you got to remember that he hasn't played in a long time. He's still a young guy. He's got a lot to build on. So it's a big game for him. I think he'll play well. I just don't think he's got enough, in the tank to lead KU to this kind of win.
Paul Myerberg from USA Today joining us here, brought to you by our good friends at the 23rd Street Brewery. Kansas State, high-scoring first quarter against West Virginia, but Will Howard continues to throw the deep ball well, and they put up big chunks in the passing game. Are you a believer in Will Howard now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, how can we not be, right? I think this actually, it's good to bring up the way Howard played and also specifically what happened in the first quarter, in my mind. Kansas State went into Morgantown, and we talked about it last week. As with KU, they would have had to lose this game. If they had played their game, played consistent, avoided turnovers, they were going to run away with it. They ended up kind of running away with it, guys. But look, in that first quarter alone, as you play against Kansas, pick six, breakdown in the secondary. All of a sudden, a game that could have been 28-7, 35-7, with 28-19 after one. It's a different feeling game. So I think the kind of the lesson and the takeaway for K-State heading into Saturday is let's just not take our foot off the gas. Let's be safe. Let's be careful. Be consistent. I think KU's easiest way into this game is a pick six. It's a short field. It's breakdowns in the secondary. So that's the lesson to take away. But by and large, we talked about it before. Will Howard has changed the trajectory of his career. He's changed the way that we perceive him as a talent. And he's just had a fantastic season. He's playing about as well as any of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country. So he's going to build on that. He's the dude. He's the guy, 2023, 2024. And I think there's just a whole lot to like about the way he's prepared and the way the coaches have gotten him ready for this opportunity.
It's a big game because if K-State wins it, they punch their ticket into the Big 12 title game. But maybe the bigger game that happened over the weekend was a field goal as time expires. TCU and Baylor. What a wild one that was, and a crazy finish with the field goal fire drill at the end of it. I thought there was no chance that he was going to make that field goal. I was like, kickers can't even get it when they focus, let alone running out there. He didn't even step it off. He just like, yep, this works. Snap, kick, go. Kudos to TCU for being able to get it done. And boy, Max Duggan is 2 games away from TCU legendary status.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And look, like, you wouldn't have believed it, or you wouldn't have believed that they could do it if not for the fact that they've been doing this all season long. It's insane. How many teams in the country have the confidence and the steadiness in the last, 130 seconds to score twice? And not just to score twice, it's to bounce back mentally from going 90 yards, scoring with about 2 minutes left, missing the 2-pointer, then being able to rally from there, get the ball back with a minute and change, march the 45 yards you need. The whole thing, like, just stinks of TCU 2022. Last year, next year, they probably lose this game. There's something magical about these guys. They know how to play 4-quarter games, and really a lot of teams don't. So credit to them. They play Iowa State. TCU only plays close games. Iowa State only plays close games. I have this feeling it's going to be the same again on Saturday, but they'll just find a way to win. Credit to them. Sonny Dykes, very obviously National Coach of the Year at this point.
Yeah, in his first year, that's incredible. When it comes to TCU Iowa State, is this a low-scoring game because Iowa State's so good defensively? Their offense is bad. Does this make it a little bit of a concern? Because this game for TCU and Iowa State is so big for K-State, because if K-State wins and TCU wins, K-State's guaranteed the Sugar Bowl.
Yep, that's exactly right. So there's a lot on the line. Look, Iowa State, you mentioned their defense. They've given up more than 27 points once all season. K-State gave up 27 points in the first half, and Kansas State's got a good defense. This Iowa State defense is a little bit on a different level. I think they get TCU into the grind. This is what they do. They want you to play ugly football because that's the only kind of football they know how to play. But look, Iowa State and TCU play close games. Iowa State has no clue how to win close games, and all TCU does is win close games. So let's not get too deep into the weeds. I think this is a close game, but TCU finds a way to win in the second half, maybe even in the fourth quarter.
Any other game in the Big 12 that has meaning? Because those are basically it, with K-State having to win. I suppose Texas and Baylor, if somehow KU pulls off a stunner. Otherwise, there's really only 2 meaningful games, which is crazy considering Oklahoma honestly doesn't matter what they do this weekend.
That's right. Yeah, those are the 2 games that matter. Texas has obviously the import of, if they win the game, it puts pressure on Kansas State to deliver. But to your previous point, this isn't just about beating KU. It's not just about making sure they get to, they fend off Texas. This is for a New Year's 6 bowl for Kansas State. And they'll know by kickoff if they can guarantee a spot in New Year's 6. And that's an incredible moment. So nighttime in Manhattan, all that on the line. It's a throwback game, a throwback moment. So I'm super excited for this. I know all you guys are as well. To have this game matter is different level. It really is.
Alrighty, so let's say TCU wins and K-State wins. You got TCU and K-State in the Big 12 title game. Are we sure? No questions asked. TCU is in if they go undefeated, correct?
Absolutely, 100%.
100%. Okay, let's get a little bit weird. Let's say Ohio State wins. Do you think Ohio State's going to beat Michigan?
I picked Michigan, but only because I picked them all year. I don't feel very good about it.
Okay. So let's say Michigan wins. Doesn't matter. Let's say Michigan wins. All right. Let's say USC only has 1 loss.
Right.
Is it Georgia, TCU, USC, Ohio State? Like, when it comes to the one-loss teams, is it if USC only has one loss, do you think they get in over Ohio State or the loser of Michigan?
If it's Ohio State, it gets to be a little bit interesting because Ohio State's reputation is a lot bigger than Michigan. If Michigan has a loss, and you're looking at multiple one-loss Power 5 champs, Michigan does not get in. So in the scenario you're saying, it's Georgia, number 1. It's the Big Ten champ, number 2. It's TCU, number 3. It's USC, number 4. Now, an interesting point, guys, that we should talk about, and we'll talk about it more next week. When Kansas State wins on Saturday, they're going to be on Tuesday probably around number 11 or number 10 in the playoff ranking. That's going to be a 10 versus 3 game if they're both unbeaten. If Kansas State beats TCU, they're going to be number 7, number 8 in the poll. Where does TCU go at that point? Is TCU even as not a Big 12 champ with the fact that they lost to a really good team, number 8 in the playoff ranking, a team they had beaten earlier in the year? Does TCU still have a shot at 12-1? The issue is that they don't have a great reputation with the committee because these guys have made kind of remarks for the last couple of weeks about, well, they're getting it done, blah, blah, blah. But they would have the resume to make that be a conversation. So keep an eye on that, and specifically look at where Kansas State is on Tuesday night if they beat KU. I think that'll tell you if TCU could still be a factor at 12-1, even if they're not Big 12 champs.
Let's say USC loses. Now, I almost think TCU has a legitimate puncher's chance because I think they would get in over Clemson maybe because Clemson, to me, is in a much worse conference. They've got one loss. Alabama's not getting in. I don't think they put LSU in if they beat Georgia. I don't. It gets real interesting if TCU loses and USC loses. Then I think the loser of the Michigan Ohio State game ends up maybe in the playoff.
Yeah, that's a way for them to backdoor in. The issue with Clemson that they will have on TCU is the conference championship. We don't know what it means necessarily to this year's committee, but in the past, the committee at the playoff has used it as an excuse to throw aside a team and make their job a little bit easier. The best case scenario for TCU is an Ohio State blowout of Michigan. If Michigan gets blown out, I truly believe there's no realistic scenario whatsoever where they can get in. They'll basically be like Alabama. Are they good enough to play in the playoff? Yes, they just don't have the resume. So watch these games. And look, I've said before that TCU at 12-1 or with one loss was out. I think obviously I've changed my tune on that. They can get in at 12-1, but to me, 12-1 would be better to lose Saturday and then beat Kansas State. You don't want it to be reversed. You need to have that Big 12 championship. With that at 12-1, they're in a really good spot. It's not a guarantee, but they will have the resume to beat USC and to beat Clemson.
Tennessee has no chance, obviously, correct?
Tennessee is done. Tennessee is actually probably going to lose to Vanderbilt. I know that sounds ridiculous, but they're going to lose to Vandy. And if they do, that's going to be like the most disastrous 1-3 finish. But no, Tennessee's out. Alabama's out. LSU's in with a win, but they're obviously out with the loss.
All right, last two for the road. Who's the Heisman Trophy winner right now?
It's Caleb Williams, and I think it's Caleb Williams by not an insignificant amount if he does something special against Notre Dame on Saturday night.
So kind of because he wasn't really talked a whole lot about at the beginning of the year.
No, he really wasn't. And I think it took a little while for people to get on board. But what he's done the last month, beginning with a loss to Utah on October 15th, has been historic. I mean, seriously historic for USC and for the Pac-12. And I think what he did against UCLA opened up a lot of eyes. But he's been doing that for a month. If he does it again against the Irish and they're 11-1, I think it's going to be him if they beat Notre Dame.
And right now, who's in your final four for the playoff? Who's in it? Give me seeds 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, USC 3, Clemson 4. I think Kansas State beats TCU in the Big 12 championship.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. If they played today, I would defy you to pick anyone but Kansas State to win that game.
Clemson gets that. Clemson's going to get smacked by Georgia.
Clemson's going to get absolutely destroyed. If I were Clemson, I would get lost on the way to the game, and I would just go to a different stadium and be like, hey, I thought we were in Miami. You guys can win. It's fine. I would not want to play Georgia, but I think if I had to bet, I'm going with that. And I know that's kind of anarchy, but I'll save it for next week, the Kansas State Big 12 champs.
Wow. Paul, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Talk next week.
Anarchy would happen.
I want that.
Here's the thing, and I'll say
That's
this.
so bad for the Big 12.
It's bad. I will say this, though. If Georgia and Clemson played, what do you think that line opens at? What do you think?
Georgia by 16, 17.
I'll take Georgia. You got to get that line to the 30s before I don't take Georgia. Clemson's not good.
No, they're not.
And Georgia is defensively a monster. That would be... I think the bigger part of that, we'll get into that next week, is Paul just basically saying, yeah, K-State's going to beat TCU. Which I don't think is that crazy to say, because when these two teams met up, K-State was up by 18 points before their own wheels fell off, and Martinez got hurt, and then Howard got hurt, but that's when Howard started being Dan Marino, and then Jake Rubley happened, and we like to forget that Jake Rubley happened, but that would be absolute anarchy in, I think, the best way possible if the Clemson found a way to beat that 4 seed. It would be absurd. But this is why college football is fun. There's a chance for absolute abject chaos.
I know I want
chaos is the best.
I want USC to lose. Here, you're ready? USC loses, Michigan gets in, and then you ready for this? Ohio State wins.
Okay.
You've got Georgia loses to LSU. So you got Georgia, LSU, Michigan, and maybe TCU. Oh my gosh, I'm excited.
It would be.
I'm so excited for this. That would be hilarious if LSU makes it in.
No, it'd be absolute comedy if LSU made it in.
I don't want them to because I don't like Brian
Kelly.
No,
I agree. I hate Brian Kelly, so I like them not making it, but who knows? But chaos is true that we all root for around here. They'll do it for this hour of Mic'd Up. Coming at the 1 o'clock hour, Landslide Polls, a new extension. And we'll get that coming up next. Welcome into Mic'd Up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for hour number 2 here on a lovely Wednesday in the capital city. Want to thank Paul Myerberg for joining us for the Big 12 Breakdown, brought to you by the 23rd Street Brewery. It was great to chat with Paul and vote for all things chaos when it comes to college football coming up this weekend, and get his early thoughts on if K-State and TCU meet in the Big 12 title game. He's taking K-State as of now. We're going to get into that more next week, barring KU upsetting K-State. But man, Paul already basically saying, nah, the Cats would get the win and go to the Sugar Bowl. It would be a great year for K-State to finish, for them to be the Big 12 champions. The battle for Atlantis quarterfinal for KU and NC State just wrapped up. KU gets the win 80-74. But also, I hope for any of you that were gambling on that game, you did not watch the ending. Because KU moneyline bettors just had the worst bad beat in the universe. KU was up 80-71. And I'm going to check what that line closed at. I think I know, but sometimes, folks, you just got to double check to make sure you knew. Yeah, that line for KU, as they were up 80-71, the line closed at 8.5. They were in. It's got the 9 points. Get it through there. NC State hits a 3-pointer with 2 seconds left to lose by 6 points. I did not have KU by 8.5, but any of you out there at KU by 8.5 and just lost that, well, I'm sorry. This is a safe space. You can let it out, let the anger out, let the feelings out. But yeah, KU defeats NC State 80-74. So they will move on to the semifinals round of the battle for Atlantis down there at Paradise Island in the Bahamas. A very nice spot this time of year. So KU got that win. They'll be going in tomorrow. Let's see. I don't know. Let me see who their 2 potential opponents could be. Because obviously the other matchups will be going on here later today. So their opponent is not set. They were the first game of the day down there in the Bahamas. So I don't know for sure who they will play just yet. Yes, they will play the winner of Dayton and Wisconsin. So Dayton and Wisconsin will play later today. KU will play the winner of that matchup coming up tomorrow at Paradise Island in the Bahamas. K-State, again, just so you know, to get through all of our programming notes here, K-State and LSU are going at it tonight at 6:30 is the tip-off in the Cayman Islands for the Cayman Islands Classic. So K-State and LSU are playing for the championship of that tournament. That can be seen only on Flow Hoops. So if you want to spend $30 to get a subpar stream, you can get some Flow Hoops. Or the better way we would suggest doing it is you can listen to K-State and LSU right here on your home for Kansas City Athletics, 580 WIBW. Pregame for that matchup will start at 5:30. That's why we have a shortened edition of 580 Sports Talk with Brendan Dorzinski coming up this afternoon. So that is some college hoops updates. And Dayton and Wisconsin will play here at 1:30, so they're actually about to tip off. Oh, probably close to 1:40. They're probably the game waiting for a KU and NC State to finish up in their matchup. So those two will play. Then we'll figure out when KU and the winner of Dayton or Wisconsin will go at it tomorrow afternoon for a little Thanksgiving Day college hoops action. The NFL slate, just because I want to get to this here at the top of the hour here. The NFL slate is not good for tomorrow. It's bad. It's horrendous. It's not a good thing that anybody at all would ever want to see. Because the first game of the day is the Bills and the Lions. Bills are a 9.5-point favorite at Ford Field. Which means the Bills can also have just stayed at Ford Field in Detroit, for this little bit that they had been doing. Because they played in Detroit against Cleveland. So they can just stay there, hang out there, play there. The midday game, so that's what's on Fox to kick off the day. The midday game on Thanksgiving is Giants-Cowboys. That should actually be entertaining. Now, Dallas is a 10-point favorite, which I get it. Dallas won the first matchup, and it's at home in Jerry World, and Dallas just won 40-6 or 40-3 or whatever over Minnesota. I get that. Give me the Giants plus 10. I don't think the Giants are going to get blown out by 10 points against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. And then your Sunday night matchup is the worst of them all. It's Patriots-Vikings. That's your NBC, close out your Thanksgiving slate. You had your big plate of food, and now you're sitting there on a couch in a turkey coma. And you have to watch Minnesota take on New England. That's so bad. That's so bad. And we have, first off, you can join on the show on the Big O Tires text line 785-272-9429 or hop in the YouTube comments on our YouTube page, Sportszone 580, where we are live streaming today's show. But we have a text from the 785 that I really resonate with. From the 785, for all that's good and holy, enough of Detroit on Thanksgiving. I'm with you. The problem is that's never going to stop. By tradition, Detroit and Dallas will always play on Thanksgiving. I'm with you, Texture. I'm tired of having to watch the Lions, a historically bad football team, or at least as of late, a bad football team, have to play on Thanksgiving because it's rarely ever a good game. But that's the way it always is. Forever and in perpetuity, we're just going to have to deal with Detroit playing on Thanksgiving. Just like we have to deal with Dallas playing on Thanksgiving. The Cowboys are going to play. The Lions are going to play. That never will change. Now, I will say this, if we're going to do some try to fixing to this Thanksgiving slate here, make all the games divisional games. Like, if you're going to make me watch Detroit, give me Detroit-Chicago, which I understand. No one want to watch that. I get that. Detroit-Minnesota or Detroit-Green Bay. Give me an NFC North game. Then, of course, with the Cowboys, make them always play an NFC East opponent. They should play either the Giants, the Eagles, or the Commanders. And whatever that third game is, make it divisional. Thanksgiving Day should be all divisional games. That's a new hot take that really me and Jake have really been on, is that Thanksgiving Day should just be divisional games if we're going to do this, because then the games always matter in some way. Because like Giants-Cowboys, even if that game was with one of them being a really bad team, because they're both 7-3 right now. That game has a lot of stakes to it. At minimum, the stake will always be, well, it's a divisional game. Divisional games matter more than anything. So I'm just saying, if we really want to really try and fix what's going on with the Thanksgiving slate, make it divisional games. You got a third of it right this year with the Giants and Cowboys. But the other ones too, make them divisional. It will make the football more fun. But that's what's coming up on your Thanksgiving slate for any of you that are going to be sitting there watching some Thanksgiving football. I know with all my complaining, I'm going to be up watching Bills-Lions at 11:30 because the NFL has its hooks into me and they will never be taken out. I've accepted this fate. I know what this life is. It is what it is. But moving on to our lead topic this hour, coming up for Everyone Loves the List, Thanksgiving main courses. And I know y'all thinking, well, there's just two. I want everyone to broaden their horizons a little bit. Also, because I'll have Kyle join me for that, I want to know a little bit about what your spread is about. But more importantly, trust me, if you expand your brain a little bit, there's more than just the two traditional things we think of, though those might be the two best options. But our list today to wrap up Thanksgiving week, the Thanksgiving main courses part of Everyone Loves a List. We'll hear from Andy Reid at the bottom of this hour, and Kellis Robinette will join us at the top of next hour to look at some K-State specifics for the Sunflower Showdown and their potential run to a Big 12 title if they can get a win and then beat TCU on championship weekend. But we begin this hour with news that made the haters and the doubters, of which there are many, absolutely ill. Nebraska fans, shut your ears. Lance Leipold has signed a contract extension with the University of Kansas, which will take him with the team through the 2029 season. The deal is structured to keep Leipold at Kansas for the long term. The deal includes a raise for Leipold, other different incentives triggered in there as well, and coupled with significant investments in facilities and other areas and NIL investment for the team. I'm going to make all my jokes, and I will get all my jokes off about it. Everyone was like, well, Leipold's going to go to Nebraska. He'll go to Wisconsin. Kansas fans live with that. He's going to be gone. He has signed an extension to stay with this team through another 7 years. There's conflicting reports on if Nebraska reached out. Michael Swain, a friend of the program, reported that he might have turned the Nebraska offer down. Other reports say Nebraska never reached out. We have not got confirmation on either side of that yet. But if so, truly, if Leipold was reached out to by Nebraska and they offered him a deal, and Leipold basically said, nah, I'm good. Nebraska fans, I'm sorry, there's a level of down bad to that. But moreover, I'm not here to poke fun at Nebraska fans. Y'all are, for the most part, good people. It's amazing of the commitment that Lance Leipold is showing to this team, that if they're going to commit to him and commit to the program, he will return that commitment and that investment. And that's what this is all about to me. That's what this extension is all about to me. Is Travis Goff has made a commitment that Kansas football will be supported. It will get better. That we're going to find a way to bring us from that doormat, butt of the joke part of college football and raise us up to some level of semi-respectability when it comes to the college football landscape. And Lance Leipold basically sat here and said, if you guys are going to do that, I will be here to help you. If you guys make the investments and commitments to making this program better that I need to be supported, I will stay and help you. And that's what this is. It's a combined effort. And it's some of the best news for a Kansas sports fan. Not even just a Kansas football fan. A Kansas sports fan could ask for it. A fan of the Jayhawks could ask for. Because it means also KU's not going to just settle at 6-6. They will likely finish 6-6 this year in the regular season because, I mean, I'm with Paul. Unless something crazy happens, K-State's probably winning on Saturday. I don't know if I'd say that. Yeah, I would still be surprised, honestly, if K-State won by 3 touchdowns. I don't know it's that big of a gap like Paul did, but I would pick K-State. I'll get to that pick coming up at the 2 o'clock hour. But it's one of those things to where you could go 6-6 for their season. They could win their bowl and go to 7-6, which would be tremendous. They're not settling there. As a Kansas fan, if they were forever 6-6, it would take a while for that shine to go away from me. With all the bad football I had to put up with for this past decade, 99 losses in a decade, I'm kind of cool if they're just 6-6 for like 8 years in a row. Because that's 8 straight bowl games. That's never happened for this program. But the commitment from Lance Leipold, the commitment from Travis Goff and company shows that they aren't settling there. Now, is Kansas' aspiration to maybe one day win the Big 12? Probably. Will that day ever come? I truly don't know. I I don't know what day might arise where we're having a conversation on a week like today, in a week like this one in this time frame, and we're discussing Kansas potentially playing for a Big 12 championship. I don't know if we'll ever get there because there's so many hills to climb to reach that point, and we don't know what the new Big 12 will have to do with the impact of some of these different things. So I'm not going to put the cart before the horse on that day even ever coming. But this type of an extension, this type of commitment shows that Kansas wants to reach things like that. They want to find a way to build up this program and sustain it. That, I think, is the key to all of this and why it was so important to try and keep Leipold for the long term. It's building sustainability to make this year that's happening not a flash in the pan. That, I think, is the key. Because I think that could be a worry, and it's a legitimate one, that Kansas does this and for some reason they backslide. I don't think they will. Kansas has enough talent on this current team, and with so much of it coming back, I highly doubt they backslide next year. And then with the success they're having and Leipold's ability as a recruiter along with the rest of his staff, they can really move forward. So this is a great, I could add 50 more greats to it, day for Kansas football. In the fact that Lance Leipold has signed is signing a contract extension. He'll be here for the long haul, and he is committed to the long term for Kansas football. And that's a great thing for everyone involved. It's a great thing for the Big 12. It's better when your conference has a lot of good teams. I mean, 8 of the 10 teams in the Big 12 are going bowling this year. That's amazing. It's 80% of your conference is going to a bowl game. That's important. That's impressive. Those are the things you need to be considered a conference that gets respect with things like the College Football Playoff Committee. You get respect by not even you being good, by everyone around you being good. That's always been the knock on the Big 12. And why the Big 12 champion, it's so hard for them to get into the playoff. Is, well, yeah, they have a lot of wins, but the Big 12 stinks, and so therefore it's not a lot of competition. Yes, but I think TCU, I know there's some thoughts that maybe TCU doesn't have any quality wins. They're undefeated in the Big 12, and the Big 12 is good this year. They've beaten good teams. Now, have they gotten some fortunate luck with the teams they've beaten? I'll give you that. Facing KU with Jason Bean for a half. Facing K-State with their quarterback situation and that carousel that happened in the middle of that. Oklahoma State, they were able to beat in a much different situation, but had some quarterback issues and Spencer Sanders being dinged up. All those different things are factors that are important to take into account when it comes to identifying and analyzing what happened and what led us to TCU being undefeated. I get that. But the fact of the matter is they are 11-0 in a conference that is a bunch of bowl-eligible teams. There's not a pushover in the Big 12. And so with Paul, TCU and Iowa State coming up this weekend, that's going to be a fight. I'll pick on Iowa State all I want. Their defense is really good. That's going to be a fight. That's going to be a close game. So the Big 12 doesn't have doormats anymore, and that's great. Even West Virginia, who can make fun of as much as you want, they put a fight. There's fight in that dog. That dog will hunt. They'll find a way. They just haven't translated that to wins on the football field, but it's a great day for Kansas. It's a great day for the Big 12 that the Jayhawks should be able to sustainably get better with Lance Leipold tied to the team for the long term. We'll take a break. Coming out of this timeout, it's time for Everyone Loves the List here on Mic'd Up. Time for Everyone Loves the List here on Mic'd Up, and I have Kyle Manthe joining me for our list finale for Thanksgiving main courses. Kyle, let's jump right into it, my guy. What is your number 4 best option for a main course at Thanksgiving?
I'm going to start out safe at number 4, just a good classic cooked ham.
Ham at 4. That's a choice. You'll see why I say that here later. But you never go wrong with ham with you. Number 4 for me. My 3 and my 4 are your alternatives to a good Thanksgiving meal that I think people need to give a shot at. Number 4 for me is a good duck. If you haven't tried it, a good duck works. So ducks for me is number 4.
Number 3 for me, I'm going to go with chicken.
Okay.
Either roasted or braised. Chicken, number 3.
Chicken is never a bad call. Number 3 for me, give me a brisket. We need more brisket at the holidays. Brisket works. Honorable mention goes out to prime rib.
Number 2, I'm going to go with roast beef.
Good
Something
call.
A little bit different. Still a holiday meal.
Okay, a little roast beef in there. You know what? That's a good call. I wouldn't have thought about that, but see, a little different. Try it up. Try something new. Don't get stuck with the simples. Number 2 for me, though, is a classic. Just give me a smoked turkey. Smoked turkey is good. It's fantastic. It's so basic, but it's so good.
Number 1, I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's turkey. Specifically, I want a roasted turkey.
Okay.
That's what I want. Roasted turkey, number 1.
That's fair. Number 1 for me, and this is why I was questioning you earlier. Number 1 for me is smoked ham. And I will sit here and tell you all, turkey is a perfectly fine main dish choice for Thanksgiving. It's the classic choice. It's what everyone gets. I get it. I understand that. Ham is better. Ham is superior to turkey in every way. I will hear no different. I will hear no slander. Ham is the superior main dish for every major holiday. It should be your main dish on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, and on Easter, as long as it fits within your dietary restrictions. Ham, always the number 1 way to go. That'll do it for Everyone Loves the List. Coming up next, we're from head coach Andy Reid here on Mic'd Up. Welcome back into Mic'd Up here on 580 WIBW. Fulton Castro here with you. We got a lot of options here for some Thanksgiving main dishes here on the Big Tire Sex Line. From the 785, 4 options of lasagna, lamb, duck, and prime rib. I'll tell you, Texture, I never thought about having lasagna as my main dish on Thanksgiving. But hey, lamb, though, I'm with you. Lamb, fantastic. Great thing. Prime rib, great. Duck, as I said, great option. Another option at 75, brisket, a roasted goose. Getting real like Charles Dickens here with a roasted goose. Smoked ham, and then a deep fried turkey. Here's my thing. I will never deep fry a turkey because, man, is that dangerous. If you don't do that exactly right, you're going to burn your entire place to the ground. I am too terrified of my own inabilities and ability to screw things up to ever tried that. And then a fantastic text from 75. Bunch of Kansas boys and no one says pheasant. Shake my head. I feel you on that duck, though. Listen, I talked with Kyle about this during the break. I didn't think to put pheasant on my list, but I will say I've had pheasant at Thanksgiving numerous times. More specifically, I've had pheasant that my family hunted. Like, wasn't no store-bought pheasant. It was they went out to a field at a hunting trip, and that was the pheasant we had. So, yes, I will fit into that level of a Kansas boy. I have done that. It is delicious. I completely missed even thinking of putting that on my list. But pheasant is really good. Like pheasant's actually fantastic, especially if you got it yourself. Oh, a word it is got it yourself. Because there's different ways to procure your own pheasant. Never had turkey that way. I've never like gone turkey hunting and then like that was my main dish was a turkey that I went and hunted. I haven't done that. But no, we've had people go pheasant hunting and that is what we got. So I feel that I didn't put it on the list. I kind of wish I did because in hindsight, man, is pheasant really good? I wish I had some. I know we're not having pheasant this year at my house, and I'm kind of sad, but I'll make do with all the other great stuff we're gonna have at my place coming up for our Thanksgiving tradition this week. And hope the rest of you have a great Thanksgiving as well with whatever you're doing, with either your family, your friends, whoever, by yourself even. Just have fun. Have a good Thanksgiving. But with that, head coach Andy Reid met with the media today for his usual Wednesday media availability. Here's what Big Red had to say earlier today.
As far as the guys that won't practice today, Tooney won't practice with his ankle. It is getting better, but he won't practice today. And then Kadarius won't practice with the hamstring. Everybody else is scheduled to practice. We made some moves here. So Clyde goes on to IR, and then he's got a pretty good high ankle sprain there, so he'll be on IR. And then you saw where we brought Blanton back to the practice squad. We put Jordan Franks on the practice squad injured list. He's got broken hand that happened in practice. And then Yang was activated to the 53. All right, so a couple of moves there took place. We look forward to playing the challenge of playing the Rams, and we know they're a good football team, talented. They've had a couple of injuries here and there, but they're well coached and they're a good football team. So we've got to have a good week of practice starting today and make sure that we cover all the base on a little bit different week because of Thanksgiving. We shortened down tomorrow a bit, so the fellows can enjoy their family and friends for Thanksgiving. And then happy Thanksgiving. So I don't forget, happy Thanksgiving to you and the fans. So, all right, with that, time's yours.
Mr. Schuster, has he officially been cleared from the concussion protocol? And happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you. I think he has to, for it to be official, has to go through a practice. So he'll go through that. He is feeling better.
Andy, there's a lot of season left, and I don't know how much you play this game going into a season, but are you at all, would Andy Reid in August have been surprised by what you've seen your team do to this stage of the season?
Yeah, well, there were some unknowns because we hadn't been through games with some of the guys. But as it went on, I could see we continue to improve like we were, that we would be okay. Seems like every game's a battle, but that's this league right now. There are more games determined by one score or less, than any year in the history of the game. So, I mean, that's the way it is. But I'm pleased, but like you said, the most important thing there is we got a lot of season left.
And one of those things, when you have so many close games, I mean, sometimes you can feel like that's a sign of vulnerability, but obviously the more you do it, the more you seem to flex that muscle. I mean, does that start to become a thing where it's ingrained in you with this particular team?
Well, listen, I mean, they expect to do well. I mean, that's but there's another group over there that thinks the same way. And so on the other side of the ball that they think they're going to do well. So you've got to go through the whole process of what we're doing right now to get ready for the Rams. You got to go through the whole process today, tomorrow, and up to the game, and then you have to have the energy to go play. And it's an emotional sport, so the emotional part of it, and narrow some of those human errors that take place.
And you just wanted to check on Thornhill. He's working today?
Yeah, so Thornhill is going to work. We're going to see, but he thought he would be able to get some stuff done there.
Conversely, with the Rams, coming off the Super Bowl and now they're 3-7. You guys have always been able to avoid the couple Super Bowls you had, not having the hangover, having a good season. Just what do you see out of the Rams? That's just it's because it's not the game that many people expect at the beginning of the year that this would be.
Yeah, well, they've had change to the team, and then injuries. That's those things happen. So, and that's not something they planned on happening, right? So, but that's kind of what I see. With where they're at. But at the same time, 99, 54, 5. I mean, these guys haven't changed, and their quarterback is banged up. But whether he plays or doesn't play, they've got good backups there. They've got good receivers and O-line. So, you gotta get yourself ready.
And Lucas's injury was pretty significant, and it occurred earlier this year, this calendar year. What does it say about his sort of rehab, and what did you figure out? What did you feel like you guys figured out that helped him maybe get back sooner rather than later?
And listen, he worked his tail off, and then he lost some weight, which coming off a leg injury, that's important. So he but I just tell you, his work ethic is, something that got him to this point. I'm working with our trainers. That helps too. They do a good job with the rehab part.
We haven't talked to Lucas yet, but do you have like a idea of how much weight he lost over this time period?
Couple Twinkies worth. I don't know exactly. Yeah, I do, but I'm not going to put it out there.
Yeah, but enough to know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Coach, I know these questions kind of drive you crazy, but I think by my count, 24 in a row that you guys have won in November and December. What can you put your finger on? Is there something about the process that you're doing right now, or anything about this team in particular that just makes them so good this time of year?
Yeah. Listen, I think we have good players, good locker room, coaches that are willing to work, and that combination normally does well. But it's everybody. It's not one thing we're doing. It's everybody involved. You see what Brett and his crew have done by bringing people in. They're constantly replenishing and bringing guys in that can play and help us. So that's part of it. The way Clark sets up the organization for us to be able to do those things. That's important. So everybody's got a piece. I can go through, except Ted. He doesn't do anything.
They know that. And Coach, it seems like Chris Jones has, he's been consistently dominant for years, but he's even taken a further step this year. What have you seen from him that maybe has led to that?
And again, he's another guy that's the last couple of years has just really put in the extra time in the off season. He goes down when he's not here. He goes down to Florida and busts his tail, and so he's in really good shape. He comes to camp in good shape. That's not necessarily how it was when he was younger. He was quite a bit bigger heavier than what he is now. But he's always in the weight room now. He's always running and doing his stuff there. So conditioning wise.
Coach, with Edward Delaire now on injured reserve, opportunity knocks for Ronald Jones.
Sure.
What do you need to see out of him these next 3 practices before determining if he's up on Sunday?
Yeah, just really, it's just an opportunity to get in and work, literally. So he and there's a chance he has a chance to play. So legitimate chance, Harvey. So, but within that, he's got to make sure he has all the protections down and the timing of the runs. Those are things we'll look at. But he's been working at it, and I don't think he should have a problem with that.
You guys have mentioned the patience for Isaiah Pacheco. Have you seen progress, especially these last 2 games, in him kind of?
I thought more of this last game. Yeah. I thought he really handled himself well. And, it did show that for sure.
Andy, probably not a lot of teams playing 4 rookies in the secondary. Do you credit what you've seen from the production to the system and the guys you brought in? What do you sort of look at there?
Yeah, well, good players. So, again, and part of that's Brett bringing in these guys, doing his homework, his whole crew. And then, Dave does a nice job with them, Merritt. Donald does a nice job with the safeties there. Spags is, that's kind of his baby. The secondary is, so he sees it and works with those guys. He'll take an individual guy while David's doing and Donald are doing the bunch. He'll grab one guy and go work with them. So they're getting the attention they need as long as they retain what they're being taught. But they seem to be hardworking, and most of all, I think that it's a smart group. They kind of get it, and that's helped them.
Not to slide any other position, but do you feel like that's one of the hardest positions to make that transition to the NFL as a rookie and play right away?
Now there's a lot of space that they've got to cover in techniques, and then you hope they learn. Like we've seen it with 23 Williams the whole season. Something happens, and he fixes that issue. So he's diligent about it and works on it at practice. He had another great experience the other day where 13 seasoned veteran gets him, and then he'll learn from that. And 35 is going through the same thing. He's Watson's the same thing. He beat on a slant. He'll learn how to take care of that, or a shallow cross route. And all these things, these guys, they're able to. Okay, you got me once, but you're not going to get me the next time. I'm going to learn from this, which is a tribute to the kids and their attention to the detail there.
Last one, Matt.
Coach, the league's doing quite a bit to recognize and celebrate John Madden tomorrow and this weekend. What do you think about Madden and Thanksgiving? What do you think about it? What did he mean to you?
Yeah. Turduncan. I mean, you think about Turduncan. I still have my Turduncan in the freezer in tribute to him. I'm debating on stuffing it. So, he was my guy. I mean, I appreciate everything he did for me, and just a good human being, and for the game. I mean, think of what he did for football, for our jobs in here, right? The things you guys do for TV. I mean, it's phenomenal. All the change he did, and then as a coach, Hall of Fame coach. So.
And then his head coach, Andy Reid, earlier today, finishing up with a nice touching tribute to John Madden. The turducken. I want to thank everybody for not saying that you should have a turducken as the main part of your Thanksgiving dish. Thank you for that. A turducken, it's funny. I will say that. I've never had one. I've never had a turkey and a duck and a chicken all together like that amalgamation of birds. I've never had that, nor do I think I ever want to do that. But, man, the turducken and John Madden fully forever will be synonymous. There'll probably be so many great touching tributes to John Madden coming up across the Thanksgiving slate of games, as there should be. John Madden and Thanksgiving, there is nothing more synonymous when it comes to football than those two guys together. It should be a lot of fun. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, Survivor Pool. I'm not a part of it, but Brendan and Jake are, but Jake and Dan are, pardon me. And neither of them are there to give their picks. So I will let you know what their Survivor Pool picks are coming up. And we'll take a brief look at the upcoming NFL slate to finish off this 1 o'clock hour. Welcome back into Mic'd Up here on 580 WIBW, finishing off this 1 o'clock hour. Survivor picks, they're still going. Jake and Dan, they won't lose. Particularly because Dan got a punt return touchdown from New England to win the game with 5 seconds left. That kept him alive in the Survivor pool last week. Jake and Dan, at some point, someone has got to lose, right? And more importantly, they each have burned one. Like, it's truly down to, like, we're sudden death. We're full-on sudden death, folks. That's what we are for Jake and for Dan. And it is going to be fun. Here are their Survivor pool picks for this week, however. Jake is going with the San Francisco 49ers this week as his Survivor pool pick. An interesting choice. Yes, he looks like San Francisco or Seattle. I'll get confirmation from Jake on San Francisco or Seattle. It looks like he is changing his pick as we speak. Jake is getting ready to hit the road. That's why he's not with me here. It looks like Jake on the fly is changing his pick to San Francisco over Seattle. Who are the 49ers playing? If at all. They might not be playing this week. They're playing the Saints. I'll get confirmation from Jake. You can check. We'll be able to check up on that even more when it comes up here. But it looks like Jake has changed his pick on the fly before I said it. So Jake's with the 49ers coming up for his Survivor pool pick this week. Dan, meanwhile, is going with the Miami Dolphins against the Houston Texans. He's going with the potentially cursed matchup as he's going with the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans. He thinks Miami will get the win there. I say potentially cursed because I lost our Survivor pool because my 2 losses were the Texans' only 2 games they haven't lost. When they tied week 1, I had picked the Colts to beat the Texans. When they won in like week 4, I had picked the team that they beat, which was the Jags. The Texans are cursed, at least for me. They're not so far cursed for Dan, because when he picked the New York Giants, that is who they were facing, was the Houston Texans, and the Giants did get a win. So for Dan, it is so far not cursed. But those are our Survivor picks for this week. Coming up here by the end of the week, coming up around Friday, we will have with you up on our website, 580wibw.com. We will have our show picks for this week. I'm trying to rebound. I am 1 from my last 5. I'm on a slide of falling out of first place. Dan is really starting to secure up a spot in first place. I'm starting to slip there a little bit. But we will give you those picks. You'll be able to find those at our website, 580wibw.com, which is what our trios picks, our show picks, will be this week for the NFL slate and a little bit of college football coming up this weekend as well. But we'll have those picks with you on our website, 580WIBW.com. That'll do it for the 1 o'clock hour of Mic'd Up. Coming up in the 2 o'clock hour to lead it off, Kellis Robinette's going to join me. Look at some K-State and KU football. Welcome into the final hour of Mic'd Up here on 580 WIBW. Phonecaster with you to take us home the final hour, and then we are off the next 2 days. Hope it doesn't surprise anyone, as I've said it a couple times, even said yesterday. We are off the next 2 days. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving, no 580 Sports Talk, no Mic'd Up. The day after on Black Friday, no Mic'd Up, no 580 Sports Talk. We are off the rest of the week. We're going to go spend some time with our families and cover a few other different sporting events here and around the state of Topeka and Manhattan and Lawrence and all those different things. We're all back with you on Monday. Monday, we turn back to normal programming as we head into the month of December, which also, by the way, man, it's almost December. But to kick off this 2 o'clock hour, we bring in our good friend Kellis Robinette of the Wichita Eagle and the Kansas City Star. Covers all things K-State, K-State hoops, K-State football, got the Sunflower Showdown. But Kellis, we're going to start here. How have you enjoyed, once again, being a Flow Hoop subscriber for the Cayman Islands Classic?
Oh, man. Well, it's an exclusive club. I can't say I'm all that happy to be a member once again, but it is exclusive. You got to pay to join. People really, I can't imagine, want to do this year round. But, you know, it hasn't been the worst experience. The crew who calls the games have been okay. You know, some of the production value has been kind of weak. It might as well be a couple people just holding up cell phones at times. And in the game yesterday, the feed went out entirely for like 5 minutes. So kind of makes you wonder why you're paying for the thing. But other than those few issues, it's been all right. It's arguably been better than the Pac-12 network, which we had to watch previously this season, which is kind of funny.
I would agree. When we had to, funny enough, I have not invested in Flow Hoops for this little run here. I did not put down that investment, but I was able to watch K-State on the Pac-12 network through my father's the cable subscription, which is very nice. I have to say, I don't think there can be a lot of things worse than how the Pac-12 network does their job. Like, I'm not trying to be mean too much to them, but it's not really the highest quality stuff on the Pac-12 network, at least for that K-State Cal game.
No. The funniest thing to me and all that was that it started off with them referring to Jerome Tang as Jerome Yang, spelling his name with a Y instead of a T, which in and of itself is funny. You know, people make typos all the time, whatever. You got to look past that. But for the whole first half, they're every time they pan over to the bench to show Jerome Tang or Yang, whatever you want to call him, they're showing one of the like directors of basketball ops on the sideline. He's not even the right person. They had no idea who Kansas State's head coach was. So Flo Hoops has not made that critical error. I got to hand it to them. But the people at Flo Hoops are a little bit full of themselves. At least in the Pac-12 network, you can kind of tell those people know nobody's watching. I've died laughing a few times. The first game, the Kansas State was in the Cayman Islands Classic. Naquan Tomlin was having a great game. And the color guy in this broadcast goes out and says, wow, this guy Naquan Tomlin is proving himself in front of a showcase, crowd tonight with the whole nation watching. He's putting himself on the map. And it's like, does this guy realize that there's only like 100 people watching this on Flow? It's not on ESPN or something crazy like that. So there've been a few moments like that where, it feels like he's talking to the wrong audience, but it's been interesting. It's added a kind of a unique twist to the tournament you wouldn't get on any other network.
I can't lie, Kellis. If I was watching that broadcast and I heard someone be like, "Oh man," in front of a sold out, audience, TV audience, I would have to be laughing myself as I'm watching that broadcast. Let's go to the actual product on the court, Kellis. K-State has 2 big wins so far in the Cayman Islands Classic. They beat Rhode Island 77-57. Just great overall win, great defensive effort, some great work from Naquan Tomlin. But then last night against Nevada in overtime, 96-87. Just first things first, above all else, I know it was overtime, but did you ever think we'd see K-State score in the 90s this season?
That's a great question. I brought this up the other day back in the Bruce Weber era. This is even in one of the seasons when they were pretty good. They just were never known for scoring. It was always defense first. Every once in a while they'd have a really good game where they shot well and they'd hit the 80s. But during that stretch, there was a restaurant here in town that had a promotion where anytime Kansas State scored, I believe it was 75 points, they would give away a free appetizer to anybody with a ticket. And the deal was legitimately meant as, a way to get people into the restaurant, way to give stuff away, hoping you buy other stuff. But they just comically set the number too high, like 75. The Kansas State never scored 75 points. It might as well have been 100. I felt bad. Hardly any people were going in to this restaurant to enjoy their free appetizers after game. Things might be a little bit different, but Jerome Tang in town, they scored 93 in the opener against UT Rio Grande Valley, 96 last night. Granted, that was overtime. Like I said, the first game wasn't against anybody great, but 2 games already in the 90s. It shows there's a much different mentality out here. I'm sure Jerome Tang would like to have the score a little bit lower. One of the first things he said after the game yesterday was, I don't think we played any defense. Maybe they didn't, but they won. So if they got to score 90 to win, that's what they're going to do. And that's a change from what we've seen in the past.
With that game against Nevada, it was mainly the Keontae Johnson and Marquise Noel show. 28 points from Keontae Johnson, 29 points and 11 assists from Marquise Noel. For each of these guys individually, let's start with Keontae Johnson. How great has this story been for Keontae this year? Had, of course, that massive health scare at Florida, collapsed on the court, didn't play basketball for a couple of years, didn't know if his career would ever be back and being able to play college basketball again. And now he's out here playing great minutes for K-State, plays 40 minutes against Nevada in overtime, drops 28 points. How great has this Keontae Johnson story been to kick off this season for the Wildcats?
Yeah, it's one of the best feel-good stories in the sport right now. It was unclear if Keontae Johnson would live through the night when he had that collapse I believe it was Florida State 2 years ago. It was certainly doubtful that he would play basketball again. And here he is 2 years later. He's not only playing at Kansas State, he seems to be thriving for the Wildcats. You can tell that he used to be a projected lottery pick. You can see why the SEC coaches voted him preseason player of the year before he had that health scare. I thought there would be rust with his game this season, having taken that much time off. And I don't know, maybe there still is. Maybe once he goes up against an elite team, he'll have a little bit of trouble scoring at the rate he has so far. But man, he has been great this season. He's looked as good as any player we've seen at Kansas State over the last couple of years. And I think he's got a shot at being an all-conference player if he keeps this up, because as good as Nigel Pack was last year, as good as Dean Wade was, as good as Barry Brown was, none of those guys were, absolute bucket getters where if things got tight in a game, you could just say, give me the ball and get out of the way. That's what Johnson can do at times. And you've seen that. He's up to 18 points a game this season, 28 last night. Whenever they needed a bucket, if it wasn't Marquise scoring the ball, it was him. So he's been a lot of fun to watch.
It's truly been a great story, and I've been so happy to see Keontae playing well and thriving after everything he's gone through. Then let's go to Marquise Noel, 29 points, 11 assists against Nevada. One of two real holdovers from the Bruce Weber era. But Marquise Noel, probably the most, I guess I'll use the word significant, no disrespect to the other guys, but I guess most significant holdover from the Bruce Weber era is Noel. When he was under Bruce last year, at least in my opinion, a critique of his was kind of, he would play aggressive, but it'd be almost a reckless aggressive. It would be just, these nonsensical half-court threes and weird step backs and just not playing really within a flow of an offense. Under Jerome Tang early here, he seems to be playing with that kind of mix of still that Marquise Noel, I want to try and get mine and just be aggressive energy. At the same time, he's really played much more under control. I think he's really developed as a passer because also it's become nightly when we're going to get the Marquise Noel show off flashy behind the back pass.
Yeah, the behind the back pass has been amazing. And now that you mention it, I don't think he actually had one last game, right?
Did the streak must have broken against Nevada.
Yeah, well, I mean, he scored 29 points instead, so I guess that's a consolation. But yeah, in every other game, there's a behind the back pass to somebody. Last night, he decided to score. I agree. Try as hard as Bruce did. He never really could get Marquise Noel to play totally within the system. And you could tell last year he was hesitant to put him in the starting lineup until the second half of the year. When he shot threes, they were always way behind the 3-point line. That was that game at Iowa State where he refused to pass and just tried to win it with a logo three himself, like he was Damian Lillard. Just kind of everything he did last season seemed sped up. Like you mentioned, I think you hit it there. He was just playing outside of the system. Jerome Tang came in and really got him to, switch mindsets and play within the system. He shoots threes now. He's toeing the line. He's set up. He's in rhythm. He's just putting up good shots and he's making good passes. And you can tell when it seemed like last year when he was sending out the ball, it was always trying to be a highlight. This year he's, making hockey assists. There are times where you can tell he gives up the ball with the hope of maybe getting it back, a pass or two later. Those are things he just wasn't patient enough to do last season. And yeah, now he's playing like a true point guard, and that's why his numbers are so good.
They are. I've been so impressed with what Marquise Noel has done. I'm impressed with so many of these Wildcats. Tonight, they take on LSU in the championship game of the Cayman Islands Classic. Probably easily the toughest game for Kansas State so far this year. At least, this isn't an LSU team that's elite or top 25 by any standards, but KenPom, they're rated fairly highly, at least in the 50 or so range, much like K-State is. These are two probably very similarly leveled teams. First things first, do you feel K-State opens at about a 2-point underdog? Do you think K-State gets the win tonight? More importantly, how do you think K-State just matches up against an LSU team early on this year to try and play them tight?
Well, they're kind of mirror images of each other, almost like that Spider-Man meme where you got one Spider-Man pointing to the other and the other guy's doing it right back. LSU's got a brand new coach, an entirely new roster. Kansas State's got a brand new coach, 11 new scholarship players. These teams look absolutely nothing like they did last season. Got a lot of energy, a lot of stuff to prove, and it's fitting that they meet each other in the championship game of this tournament. I think under normal circumstances, if you were to play on a neutral floor and both teams were equal rest, I think I'd like Kansas State a little bit better. But LSU will have a rest advantage in this game. They've been playing in the morning all week out in the Cayman Islands. They haven't been tested by Akron and Illinois State, the two teams they've played. Kansas State had, like we've been talking about, go all out to beat Nevada in overtime last night. They've been playing at night. They're not going to be quite as rested as LSU here. So I think they have an edge. But all that being said, man, it's hard to go against Kansas State. The tenacity that Jerome Tang and his team has shown. And I think a wild card could be that Kansas State, as much as an overtime game last night could have drained their energy and made it hard for them to come out and play here. LSU hasn't been tested yet. These are a bunch of new players who have not been put through the fire yet. And if this game is close, like I expect it to be, then maybe that's an advantage for Kansas State. So I'm actually picking the Wildcats in this one by a slim margin.
No matter what, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it'll be hard fought, but Jerome Tang has those Cats playing hard, and sometimes that's all you need to get a win in some of these early season Thanksgiving tournaments. Kellis, let's move over to the football field now, and we have a Sunflower Showdown coming up on Saturday night in prime time on Big Fox at Bill Snyder Family Stadium that is sold out. Simply put, is this quite easily the most important and anticipated Sunflower Showdown in at least 15 years?
Yeah, I would put it up there with the 1995 game, the only time when Kansas and Kansas State were ranked at the same time when the Sunflower Showdown happened. And the funny thing about that is that's like the game everybody points to. Oh, yeah, they were both ranked. Top 15, huge game. Well, Kansas State wiped the floor with Kansas in that game. I was pretty young. It was, like I said, 1995, so I couldn't really tell you much about it. But Kansas State won going away. And so maybe this year we'll actually get a closer game out of it than that one. Both teams aren't ranked, but Kansas State is ranked. They're one game away from the Big 12 championship, at least a chance to play for one. Kansas is bowl eligible for the first time since 2008. Here's a crazy stat. So in 95 is the only time wow. I'm really looking forward to it.
It should be a very fun one coming up as we have lost Kellis there for a minute. We'll try and get him back. The gremlin's getting into the phone lines here. We'll have Kellis get in there. But overall, no, Kellis, I'm with him on the idea that this game being so important, having so much of this juice to it. I mean, as you guys have heard me talk this week, but everybody that comes on to talk about football, ask him, what do you think this means? All this stuff. Because I think that's one of the bigger storylines to this, outside of what the impact could be on the field and what happens on the field in those situations. I think the simple fact of, this game being between two competitive teams, one of them having 6 wins, one of them trying to play and get a chance to a Big 12 title. I think overall that makes it such an important matchup trying to come up this year and seeing what amazing things that could happen for either of these teams coming up on Saturday at Bill Snyder Family Stadium as we still try to get Kellis Robinette back on the line here. I wonder if they're just for some reason, Gremlin's getting phone lines, Kellis stuff happens. I know he's not in the Cayman Islands. He's watching the games on Flow Hoops. I can't imagine calling a game, and I never try to take shots at people for stuff like that, but man, calling a game and then you're on like Flow Hoops, and then you're like, but there's the entire country's watching. I don't think that that's actually a case where anything can happen. As Kellis Robinette rejoins us here. Kellis, sorry about that. Gremlin's in the phone line, just likes to always cause some issues here, but with K-State and KU, we know the matchup's going to be big here, and some of those different things and different storylines and things like that. For K-State, Will Howard playing so exceptionally well. He's at least going to be the starting quarterback for this game while Adrian Martinez still deals with that lingering foot, ankle, knee, lower leg injury in this one here. For K-State, is this as simple as you play your game and you should win? The only way you really lose is if you let KU try to control some different parts of the pieces. If K-State just plays K-State football, should they get a win here?
Well, I think if both teams play their best football, then yes, Kansas State is a better team. They're at home. They've been playing better lately. So yeah, I would favor the Wildcats if both teams bring it. But Kansas could still make this thing close if they can play like they did early in the season. Up until last week, every time Jalen Daniels had been the quarterback when he both started and finished the game, they had been undefeated. So that's always kind of a wild card to consider. And I've actually kind of liked some of the quotes I've heard out of Lawrence this season. People going all the way back to media day saying that the game that they were looking the most forward to this year was Kansas State at the very end. Those are the kind of things we've heard in the past from K-State, not KU. I'm not saying that's enough to tilt the game in favor of the Jayhawks or anything like that, but it can make it more competitive. The thing that makes me think that Kansas State has the edge here, other than what I've already mentioned, is just that they've been electric under Will Howard. And that's not to, say that like Adrian Martinez couldn't win this game too, but the Wildcats have just been scoring at a crazy work rate since they switched quarterbacks. When Howard starts, Kansas State is averaging 48 points per game. And even in the 4 games when he plays, when he's coming off the bench and he's not getting the entire game, they're still averaging over 38, which would rank second in the conference behind only TCU. That 48 I mentioned when he starts is about 9 points clear of what TCU has been doing all season. So this offense is just, they're scoring almost every drive when he's in there, and that gives the defense a lot of confidence because they can play with the lead and be aggressive. And if that continues, then like I said, Kansas State will be playing their best football and they'll probably win.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with Will Howard. It is the real deal. It is no longer, in my opinion, it's some kind of weird apparition. He is just playing some high-level football that really does have K-State's offense playing so well. Looking back real quick at the K-State win over West Virginia, what did you like to see out of Will Howard there? Because he faced, I guess, what you would call his first real test of in-game adversity. There was what I would call a bad pick against West Virginia that led to a pick six, just not really on the same page there, and leads to a pick six, gets the game to a 1-point game because Casey Lake fails the PAT. And then he comes back and still sets the world on fire the rest of the game. What'd you make of Will Howard's performance against West Virginia and how he was able to respond from such an early mistake in that contest?
I would say it was really impressive because that's the kind of mistake we've seen from Will Howard in previous years where that goes wrong and things start snowballing on him and he just can't get it back. I think back to the first time he started a game at West Virginia when he was a freshman. He made some mistakes. Kansas State fell behind. They never corrected it. They lost big. This time he makes the mistake. He shrugs it off. There's no big deal. They just keep rolling, score 48 points, win going away. He himself said after the game, that's something that I wouldn't have been able to do in my younger days. More mature now. The offense better now. Teammates have more confidence in me now. All those things combined have made him a better quarterback. And that to me is arguably the most impressive thing he's done because all the other games he's played in, like TCU, until he got hurt, really no adversity. Oklahoma State, they win 48-0, absolutely no adversity. Baylor, 31-3. The Bears kind of rolled over for him in that game. West Virginia fought back and was trying to make it a game as best they could. And Will Howard said, nope, we're just going to take the ball again and we're going to keep scoring. And he had that thing corrected at half. They were up big. They weren't going to lose at that point. So very impressive on his part.
All right, Kellis, my final 2 questions for you. My 2 for the road. First things first, who loses a game first? K-State basketball or K-State football?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Shoot. Maybe I would say K-State basketball. I think Kansas State wins this weekend, and then I haven't looked it up at the Cats hoop schedule to memorize every game they played, but I don't know. I think there's a good chance Kansas State keeps rolling here on the football field. So I'll and if they win these next 2, then they're off until the bowl game, and I would think that Kansas State will. Jerome Tang's team will lose at least once before then, so we'll go with that.
That's fair, Kellis. For what it is worth, their next matchup outside of obviously LSU tonight, K-State hoops would also travel to Butler, most likely between the whole Big 12 title game and the big the break there for the bowl game. But that is fair. It comes down to if K-State football can just win their final 2 for the bowl game, I bet K-State hoops loses that first one there, unless maybe they start 15-0 for some weird reason. Would be a tremendous story. My last question for you, Kellis. We got Thanksgiving coming up tomorrow. It's a holiday weekend. Our list topic today was we've done our favorite desserts this week. We've done our favorite side dishes this week. And today was our favorite main courses. I know there's got to hopefully be, I don't know what the spread is like at the Robinette household for Thanksgiving. But with that in mind, what is just overall anything on the plate? What is your favorite part of your Thanksgiving plate? Be it a side dish, a dessert, the main course. What is your favorite part of that Thanksgiving plate?
It's a tough call between fried turkey and stuffing.
Okay.
I would say I would lean fried turkey. That's probably my favorite thing about Thanksgiving. I went out and bought a 3-gallon jug of peanut oil today to fry my bird in tomorrow. It's going to be amazing. That thing in the grease. For 30 minutes, 45 minutes, comes out golden brown, tastes amazing. Something you don't get any other time of year. So I like that by a slim margin over stuffing. Man, stuffing is another thing. You don't get it really at any other meal. So it's great to combine them. Kind of a 1A, 1B situation there.
That's fair. You know what, Kellis? I did think that you might have been a fried turkey guy. That's interesting. You do the fried. I said this earlier on the show. I'm too scared to ever do a fried turkey because I know if I do it wrong, it can cause like a gigantic fireball, and I don't trust myself not to screw it up.
Well, I've done it a bunch of different ways. I've got a smoker. I've tried it in there. That's worked good. I've tried the conventional oven. But the taste you get, especially on dark meat with a fried turkey, is just way better than the other two. And yeah, there are horror stories out there, people burning down their houses. But I just put mine out in the middle of my driveway, drop the turkey in nice and slow. I've never had a problem. So I think those are a little bit overblown. You should definitely try it sometime.
You know what, Kellis? I will. I trust the idea of just you take it right, you take it slow, it'll work out well. Kellis, my man, thank you so much for joining us. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Have a good Thanksgiving.
That is Kellis Robinette of the Wichita Eagle and the Kansas City Star. Always so nice to have Kellis on to join us. Maybe one day I'll try to fried turkey. And I know the horror stories can be overblown, but seriously, y'all should have learned if anything about me. I am not a non-clumsied individual. I'm not the most graceful individual. I just feel like somehow I'd completely screw that up. But at some point, maybe I'll try a fried turkey because I have heard it is incredibly delicious. Though I'll do that. Now we will take another break here on Mic'd Up. Coming up next, we'll hear from Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes here on Mic'd Up. Welcome back into Mic'd Up here on 580 WIBW. Earlier today, quarterback Patrick Mahomes met with the media. Here's what QB1 had to say earlier on today.
Well, Patrick, I'll start you off with a Thanksgiving question. What are you most thankful for?
Yeah, I'm just most thankful for the people around me, from my family to my teammates, and everyone that's helped me get to where I'm at today. Those people I'll be thankful for every day, not just on Thanksgiving, but every single day that I'm alive.
Are you thankful that you're going to have Juju back potentially on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, to get a dynamic playmaker back, hopefully everything goes good with the protocol and everything like that, and he's healthy and ready to go. And but just to have that energy on the sideline again, he's obviously a great player, but a great teammate. So you always want to get those guys back in the huddle.
How much do you sense it meant to Sky to be able to make the plays that he did on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, it was big. I mean, just confidence booster. He's someone who puts in the work every day, and we have a lot of guys in that receiving room, so the ball gets spread out a ton, and he hasn't got the numbers that I think we thought he was going to have going into this season. And so for him to make big catches in big moments in a big game, it shows that all that hard work that he puts in every single day is paying off, and he's someone that will be a contributor to this team for a long time.
Patrick, Eric Bieniemy mentioned Aaron Donald was like Steph Curry. You know, do you see that out of him? I mean, I know the Rams are having a disappointing year, but overall, just what do you see from that Rams defense? Because they still have some talent out there. Despite
yeah, I mean, they have a ton of talent. I mean, they're still a great defense. I mean, I watch them in all the games they've played this year, and then they've done a great job. And so they have playmakers everywhere. I mean, obviously 99, he strip sacked me last time twice when we played him. So we got to make sure we account for him every single time that he's on the field, which is like every play. So you have to have a good game plan for him. They got 5 and Ramsey, who's a great player. They got 54. I mean, you could just go down the list. They have great players all throughout that defense. And so it'll be a great challenge for us as an offense, and we have to go out there and execute at a high level and try to limit our mistakes because they capitalize on those.
Patrick, even in your short time in the league, you've seen most teams have a lot of fluctuation in how they do season by season. You guys have been able to keep a pretty good arc. I just wonder what you think about when you think about your ability to do that through the years so far.
Yeah, I mean, in this league, everybody can beat everybody. I know everybody says that, but I mean, I truly believe it. I mean, every week, if you don't bring your best game, you can lose the football game. And so for us, we try to just maintain getting better every day. I mean, I preach it all the time. EB preaches it. Coach Reed preaches it. Is just how can you make yourself better today to impact yourself for the game? And so that's what we've done. And if you focus on that, you can just continue to get better and better as seasons go on, and then try to find ways to win football games, kind of like we did this last week.
Do you feel like that is a sort of consistent thing you'd say over like even the last 5 years? I mean, that's part of the DNA of like your success, or anything particularly else you would point to about the organization? Or
yeah, no, that for sure. I mean, it starts off at the top, and I think if you look at our organization, everybody comes to work with the mindset of how can they make themselves better to make this organization better. And so Coach Reed, he's created that culture, the coaching staff, the players, everybody. I mean, everybody that's in this building is trying to do whatever they can every day to make this whole entire building better.
Patrick, you pushed the ball down the field a lot more on Sunday. I just wonder if that's what you saw defensively, if that was one of the emphasis for you.
I think it was just they came up and they challenged us. They played man coverage. Even when they were playing zones, they pressed their corners and tried to make sure that they were challenging us at the line of scrimmage, and it gave us opportunities to make some plays downfield. And I mean, that's something that I want to do, is throw the ball deep and give guys chances to make plays. And so I've learned to be patient and kind of take the stuff over the middle and the shorter passes. But if I have the opportunity to go for the deep shot, I'm going to make sure I maximize it. I don't get a lot of those anymore.
Have you seen or maybe been waiting because you have been effective, being patient? Have you sort of been waiting for maybe it to reverse back in that manner?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as the last few games, people have kind of played more man coverage and came up and been more physical with our receivers at the line of scrimmage, and it's a tribute to them. They're winning. They're getting downfield. They're winning on their routes, and giving me a chance to make some throws and let them make plays. And so I think it started maybe the Titans game or the Raiders game, kind of one of those games. They started playing more and more man coverage, and the Chargers did a good job of it for the most part, but we were able to make enough plays at the end of the game to win it.
Patrick, I remember in the offseason, you were sort of surprised to go through the reps for the first time with Justin Watson. Yet he continues to be a productive player for the offense. Just how valuable do you see him right now in this unit? And is it surprising to you now that he's been this productive from obviously when you guys first started working together?
It hasn't. I mean, obviously, when you first get there, you don't. I mean, like I I hit the receivers that I knew, and then Justin Watts, I knew we had signed him, but I just kind of texted him and told him to come down. And you see it. You saw it the first day in Texas. You can see how he ran routes, how fast he was. I knew he had a chance to make the team at that time, but we had a lot of competition in that room, and I think it kind of made him even better with the competition. And he accepted the challenge. He was helping other guys. He was getting reps in whenever he could in training camp. If the guy went down, he was the first guy to hop up. I think that's proven to be why he's had so much success this season, is whenever guys have went down or he's had to hop in for a rep, he makes the most of it. And you have to have those guys, because when we have situations like we had this last game, he can be that guy to step up and make a lot of big plays for us.
It sounds like Bryce Perkins making the start at quarterback for them this week. Just what do you remember about being a young quarterback in this league and some of the veterans kind of talking to you before and after the game? And what does it feel like to be in that position now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you got to rely on your coaches and the guys around you. That's the biggest thing that I remember is obviously you're going into a new environment. He's playing at Arrowhead. I was playing, I think, at Mile High in my first start. You're going to a new environment. It's going to be a tough challenge for you. But how can you rely on what your coaches have taught you, your fundamentals, and your teammates around you to bring the best out of you?
You've won 25 games in a row now, this team, or the November, December games for the last few years. What is it about this time of year that gets you dialed in, that you like about this time of year?
I think it's just we continue just to get better as the season goes on. At the beginning of the year, you're trying to find out who you are. You're trying to find out what are your best plays, what do you want to go to in those go-to moments. And as the season goes on, you figure that stuff out. And then the practice gets easier. So Coach Reed, that might be it. I don't know.
Patrick, 4 games this season, you guys have been trailing at halftime where you've come out the second half, you've been able to pull out the win. Can you point your finger on anything? Is there anything that's said at halftime, or what is it where you guys flip that switch and come out and pull it out?
Yeah, I think, guys, we make adjustments. The coaching staff comes in. We make adjustments at halftime. We try to execute those things. We see the defense is doing against us as offense, and then the same vice versa what the offense is doing against our defense. And I think we do a great job of making adjustments, executing those, and guys have the mentality of we're going to find a way. So you have to be a great second half team in this league in order to win games. Every game's close in this league. I think everybody knows that. But hopefully we can try to get some leads going into halftime and make it a little easier on ourselves. That would help.
Patrick, just to follow up on the practice getting easier. Injury is known for a brutal camp, and there are definitely some miserable days. Do you get the sense that guys enjoy coming to the building a little bit more in a sense later in the year just because of it being a little bit looser?
I think the camp that Coach Reed it helps us so much as the season goes on, because we've been through those adverse moments when you're tired, your body's hurting, and you got to go out there and still execute at a high level. And so it prepares you for games when you're in those situations. And so the practices slim down as the season goes on, but you've built up that stamina of you know you can put in that work and be at the top of your game. And so I told those new receivers especially, I was like, get through training camp and you'll be ready to go for the entire season. And I think they understand that now, and they understand why we did what we did in training camp to prepare them to be in those moments in the season.
Go 2 more with Adam and Matt. Go ahead.
Patrick, with the run game starting to pick up these last couple of weeks, how does that kind of help you as a quarterback? I know that you would be willing to throw the ball every time, but now that you kind of have the run game picking up, and as it starts to get colder, you probably do want to start running the ball a little bit more. How does that help the offense a little bit?
Yeah, I think our offense is in a completely different place when we run the ball well. The offensive line gets going. It helps them in not only run blocking, but pass blocking as well, because the defense doesn't know what to account for. It helps open up play action and stuff like that. We run the football. If you look at our games, the games we have most success is when we run the ball well. And so you want to still be who we are and throw the ball when we need to, but being able to establish the run is huge. Any time of the year, I'm not really worried about the cold. I can throw it in the cold, I think.
Patrick, the league's doing quite a bit to celebrate John Madden tomorrow for Thanksgiving. So as a young player growing up, what did Madden mean to you?
Yeah, and he meant a ton, man. I got Madden the video game, like right when Madden the video game became it, which it still is. And so I played it all growing up, hearing his voice. It's ingrained in me now. And I watched a documentary this last year, and I'm doing the turducken this year. So I'm going to try it out. I'm not cooking it. I can't cook, but my chef's already preparing it and getting it ready to go. And I'll let y'all know next week how it is.
As Patrick Mahomes speaking earlier on today. And listen, these younger players, they might not have been around John Madden that much as the commentator, but Madden, the video game, was a big part of their childhoods. And again, it is so awesome that we're going to get to see John Madden and his life honored a little bit coming up here on Thanksgiving. We'll get another timeout when we come back. Chiefs Rams will give you a little bit of wrap up and our last look at the NFL this weekend. Finishing off mic'd up here on 580 WIBW. It is our own version of a Friday show, even though it's Wednesday. It's the last show of the week. So we're wrapping it up in a fun way. The injury report not yet out. I promise I can speak English. Even though it's a short week, it's been a long one, and I'm ready for a vacation. Injury report not yet out yet for Chiefs and Rams for either team. There have been some roster updates, though, for the Kansas City Chiefs. Lucas Niang has been activated from the reserve physically unable to perform list, so his 21-way window expired this week. So it's either activate him today, or at least for this game. I don't know if today was the exact day, but it was for this game. Activate him, or he would be out for the entire year. But Lucas Niang has been activated. Kendall Blanton, tight end, has been signed to the practice squad. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been placed on injured reserve. And then Jordan Franks, a practice squad player, has been placed on injured reserve as well. So Kendall Blanton is being sent to the practice squad for Jordan Franks, another tight end who is going on the practice squad injured reserve list. Those are your roster updates for the Kansas City Chiefs. We have not heard a ton of updates or a little bit of injury updates from Andy Reid earlier today. Joe Thuney not practicing with some minor injuries. I doubt he'll miss a game, but he's probably at least, being able to get some rest. McCole Hardman, of course, on IR. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on IR. Juju Smith-Schuster hopefully can play coming up on Sunday, but that just comes down to concussion protocol things and the like. So we'll get to know more info about that coming through this week. We will not be able to give you those updates, as again, just want to remind everybody, we are off the next 2 days. No Mic'd Up tomorrow, no Mic'd Up on Friday, no 580 Sports Talk tomorrow, no 580 Sports Talk on Friday. So if you want any of those Chiefs updates, Chiefs website, Chiefs Twitter, Facebook, snail mail, pigeon mail, Pony Express, however you get your information, not through us, will have to be the way that you get your information for the Chiefs and the Rams coming up on Sunday. But speaking of the Chiefs and Rams, Jake was with me briefly to start the show before he went and began his Thanksgiving vacation. And he said the biggest number one key in this game is protect Patrick Mahomes. And I think he's right. Because Aaron Donald is still there. As bad as the Rams offense is, Aaron Donald's still Aaron Donald. He's still a guy that you have to double and even sometimes triple team to make sure he does not completely wreck and destroy and eliminate any sort of a plan you can have for your team and for your offense. So protecting Patrick Mahomes, I'm with Jake, does remain the number one key. And then the two other things for me are, don't hand the Rams possessions. Don't commit silly turnovers. No interceptions from Mahomes forcing it. No interceptions off dropped passes or even just drops in general. Don't fumble the football because you're running with it carelessly. None of that stuff. Don't give the Rams extra possessions because you're likely facing either Bryce Perkins, who is the most likely starter, and then Case Cookus, a USFL legend. I say that he wasn't even that great in the USFL. But Case Cookus has been signed to the practice squad for the Rams. He will likely serve as the backup for Bryce Perkins if Matt Stafford cannot go, because John Wolford is also injured. So the quarterback play from the Rams will likely not be great. With that, with Cooper Kupp being injured and not playing in this game, so the wide receivers are Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson, and Ben Skoranek. They can't figure out a running back situation. They just released Darrell Henderson, who had been their starter, and now it looks like Cam Akers will be the starter, who was the starter to begin the year, then was almost traded and kicked off the team for some weird reason, and now he's back to probably being the lead back, or it'll be Kyron Williams, their rookie running back. Who knows? It'll be something. I don't know at this point. But the Rams are in such a bad state. You want to keep bad teams being bad. You want to keep losing teams losing. And you do that by not making the game easier for them, by not giving them extra possessions, by not, taking things too easy. The Chiefs need to play a good, hard, focused football game, and they should easily cruise to a win. I don't know if they'll cover the 14.5. Like I told you, I'm not touching that. I don't like double-digit spreads in the NFL. They're too volatile. They get backdoored too often. I don't like them. They never sit right with me. So I will not be taking Chiefs by 14.5 in this contest. I would take the Chiefs to win. You're not making a lot of money on that one because the odds are so high that it happens. But if I were to do it, it would be the Chiefs to win coming up on Sunday. That's what I would do. But overall, it should be a good game, should be a competent game for the Chiefs, and we're going to see a lot of Isaiah Pacheco, a lot of Jerick McKinnon. Ronald Jones should likely be active with Clyde Edwards-Helaire going on injured reserve. So we might get our first Ronald Jones carries of the year. I know that'll probably make him happy. He was, essentially asking for a release on Twitter earlier this year, and the Chiefs basically said no, because it's good to have the running back depth. And now with Clyde Edwards-Helaire going on IR, it's useful. This is why you keep him around. It works out. And so we'll see what the Chiefs can do coming up on Sunday. But overall, should be not very stressful afternoon up at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium as the Chiefs and the Rams square off coming up on Sunday. We'll take our final timeout here on Mic'd Up. We'll finish off this week of Mic'd Up. Get ready for the Thanksgiving weekend with the mic drop coming up next. Time for the mic drop here on Mic'd Up to send us home for the week. We're not on the air tomorrow or Friday. We'll be back with you on Monday. And my mic drop today is a bit of a two-parter. We'll start with the first part. KU K-State playing the Sunflower Showdown coming up on Saturday. I will be in attendance. I will be at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. I will be working in the game for our station here in 580 WIBW. So follow along at Sports on 580 for my tweets, highlights, things like that from the game. If you can't go to the game, that's another way you can get highlights instead of just watching the game on Fox coming up, and also have some post-game notes and what have you from that matchup. That'll be fun. No matter what happens, even if I watch KU get losing by 35, it probably won't happen that way, but even if it did, the fact that this game matters, that people are talking about, there's buzz, there's intensity, that the KU side of it is so invested in the rivalry again in football. That's what matters. And I am delighted, and I'm so happy that I get to talk about a Sunflower Showdown to end the regular season that has implications on the line and could be competitive and be good. I'm very excited for that. It makes me so happy. I think it's the best thing for football for both KU and even Kansas State, that this rivalry has some juice, has some legs, actually means something. So I'm so happy that I will get to experience that in person on Saturday, and it should be a great contest that we will break down all for you coming up next week here on Mic'd Up, and with Brendan and Dan on 580 Sports Talk. And then my second part to this is hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. This is the time of the year we just say what we're thankful for. I am thankful for all of you. As cheesy as some of you may find that, I am legitimately thankful for all of you, the listeners, the viewers, all of you. It means a lot. We can't do what we do and like to do what we do if we're screaming into a void. Your interactions, you guys coming in on the Big O Tires text line, texting us, making comments on the YouTube show, tweeting at us, all the different things you all tell us, it means something to us. So I know I speak for myself, for Jake, for Brendan, for Dan. We are thankful for you, the listeners, and now the viewers to our great programs here on 580 WIBW for supporting us and what we do. We're thankful for you all, and I hope every single one of you out there, however you're celebrating, however many people you have it with, have a great and fantastic Thanksgiving. That'll do it for Mic'd Up for today and for this week. Coming up next, Brendan Rosinski and 580 Sports Talk here on 580 WIBW.